Welcome, everyone, to the SoCal Car Scene Podcast, exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your host, Dean Marash. Joining us today is Matt Haugen, race car driver, drifter, car fabricator, and YouTuber. But before we get started, I need to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by our good friends at C-Tech and Wicked Automotive Detailing. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, the SoCal Car Scene, so you never miss an episode. Hey, let me take a few minutes and introduce you to our really cool and very special guest, Matt Haugen. Matt's from the wonderful city of Scottsdale, Arizona, starting to heat up over there, and was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, where it's oftentimes frozen. That's interesting. You're at the extremes. He owns and leads a professional race team, Matt Haugen Racing. He's also a SEMA car builder and a big-time content creator. He loves drifting, comedy, off-roading, building cars, long walks on the beach, and making videos. Okay, wait a minute. I added something in there. He did not tell me that about the beaches. His YouTube channel is the largest focus right now on drifting, and their content includes vlogs, reaction videos, how to drift, drifting, video games, off-roading, and more. He has also created and sells automotive and Japanese-inspired streetwear and accessories. We're going to get into that. Fascinated by that. He's a SEMA show regular since he was 16, with 7 vehicles in the show over all these years, including his Liberty Walk Lamborghini Murcielago and his one JZ swap Rocket Bunny 350Z, dubbed the 351 JZ. He fell in love with drifting and has been pursuing that professionally since 2017. He first competed in ProAm with his Hyundai Genesis Coupe, powered by a CBM 4.0 Whipple Supercharged 425 LS3. I don't know what that means, but I'm impressed. I'm really impressed with this. He recently completed his Master of Science in Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the University of Southern California right here in SoCal. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining us on the SoCal Car Scene.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right on, dude.
Stoked to be here.
All right, man. That's quiet. You got a lot going on, man. But first, I want to warn you, never had a drifter on this show, on this podcast. So a little bit of warning, things could get sideways. But I have no idea what's going to happen. And I don't even know. I know so little about drifting. It's kind of dangerous.
It can be. What's interesting, though, is there's only 2 cars drifting together at any time in competition. So it's not like, NASCAR or Formula One where you have all these cars going together. So it's dangerous in its own way, but I'd say more towards the cars than the people. If that makes sense.
What's weird is when I watch 2 cars drifting, I think of Blue Angels in formation with their F-18s. I'm like, how the hell are those planes flying so close? Something just doesn't seem real about that. But how close are you? And how crazy is it when you're out there, or is it like a dance?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. What allows like really close proximity is what we call it, is the lead driver putting down a really good lead run and something that you can basically know where he's going to go. And so if the lead driver does that, and then the chase driver is a good chase driver, that's when like the magic happens and you see guys that are just like, inches from each other. So it's unbelievable. And these cars are like, they're like drag cars in the back, basically. Like people don't really realize that, but they're so gripped up, and we're running like racing tires. We have, over 1,000 horsepower. So like, they're not easy to drive at all. And then pitching them sideways next to another car is just ridiculous.
It's nuts. Well, it is like dancing. You got to have a good lead partner, it sounds like. And I know some of them, I mentioned Dean Kearney's, he ran about 1,500 horsepower in that Viper. And I'm like, it seems crazy, but you guys do it so bitchin'. I see why it's exploded in the last 10, 15 years. It's just one of the most visceral things to watch in auto sports. It's impossible to take your eyes off it.
I think it's just, I personally, I'm biased because I do the sport, but I think it's the most entertaining motorsport to watch. And that's tough to say, right? There's a lot of entertaining motorsports, but it all comes down to like just that one run, and it's so quick. And then you're on to like a different battle, and it's different looking cars. It's not like lap after lap after lap where there's great exciting moments, but these is just like every battle, you don't know what's going to happen. And underdogs all the time will, take out, the top player. So it's just crazy.
Oh man. Well, we look forward to learning more, and thanks for bringing this to our attention. Cause like my users, my audience, probably a lot more intelligent on this, and your audience is probably locked down. So this is fun. Hey, so switching subjects just a little bit. Not too many of our guests and our audience have a car at SEMA, and certainly not at the age of 16. How did that happen? That is so awesome. I think it was a Toyota Tundra, if I remember correctly, but tell us about that story.
Yeah. So, I mean, man, like many of you guys, like I've been customizing and into cars since I was so young. And at like 16 years old, 16 or 15, must have been 16, right when I got my Tundra. I don't know how I'd heard about the SEMA show. I guess it was just like, because I was so young and I wasn't in the industry or anything. I was just in high school. And at the time I was like competitively wakeboarding. And that was like, you know, more my world, cars too. But for whatever reason, I'd heard of it and I was like, I want to go, but I knew it was like an industry only thing. And so we ended up getting tickets from a friend who runs like a wheel and tire shop down here in Phoenix, Arizona. And so we went, and then I was like, I want to have a vehicle in there. Like, how do I make this happen? And I mean, really long story short, like that shop hooked me up with another shop and they kind of helped me build it. And we ended up getting it in SEMA that next year. And it was a total dream come true. Like I'll never forget it.
Yeah, as a 16-year-old, you must have been pinching yourself like, people are looking at my truck. I'm in a booth. This is, wow.
Well, the year before, you know, I was the kid taking pictures in front of the cars, you know,
yeah.
and then the next year there's people taking pictures of my car. And I was
Wow.
like, this is too cool. Yeah, it was.
Well, now it's in your blood, and there's no leaving your body. It's just like a drug. You got to be there right every year. So pretty sad when it got canceled last year, but they waited till the very end. You know, they were like, yeah, no, we might, yes, no. I was Kawasaki was on, and you know he's the executive CEO at Coker, and he's like, we had him on the podcast. He said, well, it might happen still. Hang in there. We don't know, you know. But they were hoping, but this year will be better. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. So, it's funny because like I'd go to like every year and then I kept having cars in there and stuff like that. But the last couple of years, like have just been like so crazy for me. And honestly, I haven't gone. I didn't go the year before COVID or obviously last year. And then this year I'm like, I don't know. Cause we're working on something really big for next year. And I'm so focused on this YouTube thing right now. Like I think that's kind of my my golden ticket, I guess, if I can make
it very well could be based on all the awesome content you got. It's really compelling. So you might tap out this year. I get all these invites and we might get out there and do some podcasting and stuff. Let us know you go out there. Love to meet you and see you there.
That'd be cool.
Check it out. Hey, tell us, give us a little 411 on the Matt Haugen Racing. I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of other things, irons in the fire, other than just obviously your YouTube, but kind of give us the bigger picture on that.
Yeah. So like Haugen Racing, I started, it was just an Instagram page, like maybe 5 years ago. I was just like, everyone was like, all my friends were getting Instagrams. They're like, you should get an Instagram. And I was like, I don't really want one. I don't know why I didn't. But I was like, I don't really want one for like my personal life, but I'll just make one and I'll call it Haugen Racing. Like literally that was it. And I was like, I'll just post up at that point. It was a little longer than that then. It was like 6 years ago because it was like right when I started drifting. And I was like, I'll kind of post some drifting and car stuff up. And because before that, like all the SEMA stuff I'd done, I wasn't like doing any social media or YouTube or anything like that. It was just a passion project. Which is a bummer. Like I did some cool stuff. I wish I was like doing social media then.
All that content, you're like kicking yourself out, right?
And so like, I mean, long story short, like if we had talked, you know, a year and a half or ago or any time before then, I would have been like, hey, I'm trying to build a business outside of automotive and then fund my racing and, you know, automotive addiction with that. Right before COVID, so not related to COVID, but the business that I had that was helping with this stuff and the startup I was working on shut down.
Okay.
And so then that's when I was like, for the first time, I was like, I'm going to try going full-time Haugen Racing. And at the time we were doing like, I think 1 or 2 YouTube videos a week. We had a little bit of merchandise. We're doing the Instagram and Facebook and TikTok thing.
Yeah.
And that last year I had done my rookie year of Formula Drift, which was not a good experience. I did terrible, but not because really not because due to me. It was a massive car issues, but
Yeah,
we
sure.
can dive into that if you'd like. But yeah, so then I was like, what am I gonna do with Haugen Racing? I was like, where do I want this to go? And then COVID hit, and I was still kind of formulating the plan. And I was like, if I can make this YouTube go, um, we can kind of branch in and do whatever we want. We can
Right.
get back to building a lot of cars. It could fund racing. It could do all of that pretty easily. And so I was like, that's kind of when I changed Haugen Racing from like a racing team to what I would more call like an entertainment company. And I mean, I use those terms loosely, but like we went from like racing as our priority, being out at events, to we need to entertain people. We need people's eyes on us and, giving them content. And so, yeah, now we're at 5 YouTube videos a week. We're doing like monthly merchandise drops, all the social media stuff. Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
congratulations. Look, for a guy like me that's, you know, uh, still on the steep part of the learning curve, I know how much work's involved in posting 1 or 2 pieces of content a week on YouTube, and all those various channels that you mentioned, like Instagram and Facebook and so on and so forth. 5 per week on YouTube. You must have some pretty skilled guys helping you out in editing and content creation and production. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have 2 full-time employees right now. Uh, One, his name is Jameson. He's like my lead mechanic and crew chief.
uh-huh.
And because like we're always like we have a practice drift car, and then like a demo drift car and a pro drift car. So just like keeping those 3 kind of maintained and fixed is a job in itself. And then
Oh yeah,
we've been doing this crazy pre-runner off-road truck build so we can kind of get into off-roading and kind of bring our style over there,
right on.
as well as just upkeeping like the show cars. So I'm like, that's gotten to the point where that is a full-time job. So that's kind of where he's stationed. And then
Right.
Aaron was going to help out with like some social media posting and things like that. But now that we're at 5 videos a week, like it's pretty much all he does. He's just
Yeah.
editing.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
I spend a little bit of time in Premiere, and that guy, he's got the patience of Job. I just want, like, some days I want to just like, oh my God, I don't, he must be a very patient guy, but your content's great. It's entertaining. It's funny. For those of you who haven't seen it, get out there and see Haugen Racing on YouTube. It's awesome. We'll talk more about it. But let me take a minute right now and thank one of our awesome sponsors. Are you looking for a smarter way to charge your car's battery? Our friends at CTEC lead the way in the care and maintenance of vehicle batteries. CTEC's unparalleled knowledge and continuous innovation means they offer high quality, reliable chargers that are effective, easy to use, and most importantly, safe for their user and their car's electric system. The quality of CTEC's products makes them the trusted company of the world's most recognizable car brands. Get yours today at smartercharger.com. Type in this code SoCal, all caps, at checkout and get a 10% discount on all your CTEC products. Those guys are some great partners of ours, super generous and just outstanding. So we appreciate them. Hey, on this digital content stuff, so you said entertainment. I want to touch on that a little more. So you use your drift cars and your race cars and the various pieces of equipment that used to bring in the bacon, if you will, and now they provide the entertainment. So sometimes you're racing, sometimes you're demoing, sometimes you're getting into other stuff. But is it your goal to kind of inform and educate, but at the same time have fun? I mean,
yeah, I like let me back up kind of like the thing that I get the most entertainment out of, or not
yeah,
entertainment, sorry, like the most satisfaction out of is giving ride-alongs. Like when we go to drift events and we give
yeah,
ride-alongs to people, it's so fun because there's people that have like, oh, I've been trying to get a ride-along all weekend and I can't get in this car, or I wanted to get in your car, or whatever it is. And then they have such a smile on their face and they're so stoked after they get out of it. And to be able to like help with that experience is so cool. And the whole team gets like so stoked on it. And so that kind of whole thing of like putting smiles on people's faces and just being able to relate to people, I think that's what like the whole entertaining thing
You,
goes
you
around.
oftentimes give them a depends in preparation or not, or are
You know,
people
what's
not
funny
scared
is
out of their minds sometimes?
Jameson will help them get in the car and strap them in and stuff. And
Yeah.
then a lot of times he'll mess with them some way. He'll be like, good luck. And then like close the door and they'll be like, what do you mean good luck? Like, why do I need good luck?
Oh, you haven't been in one of these before?
Yeah. So yeah, no, we have some fun with it.
That's
Yeah, but on the education part, that's been a little bit of a part of it.
yeah.
Like we did how to drift videos, and that series has done pretty well. And we've gotten a lot of really cool feedback from it. People saying, hey, like I watched all these videos and you guys really helped me, get into the sport of drifting or learn this or like fix this. But on that, what's so weird about like YouTube, if I can just complain for a second, is like
Sure.
sometimes, well, for me, it's been a lot of the time what you want to do isn't really what YouTube wants.
Right.
And it's not, I'm going to get like super basic here. I know there's a lot of people have been talking about it. And so I think general audiences have more of an understanding of it, but it's all ran by an algorithm.
Yep.
And Google made the algorithm or YouTube rather, made the algorithm years ago. They've made like a couple adjustments, but it's basically been doing its own thing and on its own for like years now. And so it basically decides what works and doesn't work on YouTube. And so the how to drift videos, like they were doing well for a little bit, but suddenly they kind of stopped. We used to do comedy videos, which I loved. We called it automotive parody. And it was so fun. I think we have like 60 videos where it's just totally something unique and different than I've ever seen on YouTube, combining cars with comedy, skits, improv. Like I was acting. I didn't even know I could act, but it was like so fun to just go through that journey. But YouTube wouldn't recommend them. And so it's like the decision is, do you do what you want to do on YouTube, or do you kind of keep following what works to build the channel?
I think that's a slippery slope or a delicate balancing act for all of us that are creating content. Yeah. I feel like, webcasts or podcasts like we do here, the podcast especially isn't a compelling YouTube, piece of content for sure. I mean, because of the algorithm. But what I like to do, my passion is to give an opportunity to tell people's story in a longer format, right? Than just give it short shrift or whatever. So if people want to deep dive and get to know drifting and Matt, this is the place for it. And it's also a nice historical record, for your children or for anybody else that knows Matt over the years, long after we're gone. These things are going to be hanging out there. And 200 years from now, people are going to be laughing. Look at the grainy stuff those idiots created. Isn't that funny to think about it? It potentially could be there forever. So I'm doing what I'm passionate about, but I feel you're paying on this algorithm stuff. It's brutal. But
yeah,
what are you going to do about it?
It's kind of, for a while I stuck to my guns and we did exactly what we wanted to do.
Yep.
But now it's like I need to make this work. I mean, the business is riding on it. And so it's like, for whatever reason, reaction videos, which are actually kind of fun to do, but those have just been killing it on YouTube for us. Yeah. So we're just doing a lot of those. And
the one that I watched that I thought was really hilarious. I've probably seen 2 or 3 or 4 videos now. The one where you were driving your Lambo around town, acting like a complete a-hole, and acting like you were too big, big in your pants for everybody, and that was hilarious. Oh my God, the reactions you got from some people, it's like you couldn't even written a better script.
And that was the comedy. Like I love doing that, but it just, I think we'll get back there. I'm hoping, as the channel grows a little bit, we can start kind of telling people, pointing them to those videos, because that's the reaction we get from everyone. But the stupid algorithm is like, wants no part of it. So
yeah, and those are as good as some of the commercials on TV or the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, so tell me about that Lamborghini. Is that your Lamborghini Murcielago, or is that a different car?
Oh, that was originally my father's, and I actually bought it from him because I customized the shit out of it and put it in SEMA and stuff. And he could no longer drive it.
With or without his permission on those customization.
Yeah. So it was cool because I was pretty young when we first met the Liberty Walk guys. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No, I'm not.
So they The owner and founder's name is Wataru Kato. He's from Japan, and he had this like car customization and kind of used car sales lot over in Japan. And one of his friends was like, "Hey, I want to make, the coolest Lamborghini in the world, basically." And he was
Yeah.
like, "Okay." So they put this crazy wide body kit on it that basically they took styling from the old like Kaido racing and Bosozoku culture, which are like Japanese car subcultures.
Right.
And they ended up putting it in SEMA. And the first year they got like, everyone was just like, what the hell? You cut up this exotic car. And so they weren't going to come back. And they did come back. They came back with, I believe it was the GTR at that point. And it was just crazy. Like it was such a love hate because they're taking these exotic cars and bolting on wide bodies and all this stuff. But anyways, when we went there, I was like, "Dad, you gotta check these out. Like this is so crazy." Because he had his Lambo at the time, but it's just stock. And he was like, "What the hell? Like what are these guys doing?" And so anyways, we're sitting looking at the Murcielago, and we know him now. His name's Tosh, but he's kind of like Wataru Kato's right-hand man.
Right.
And he comes over and he's like, "Hey, do you guys want to meet Kato?" And we're like, "Oh, sure." And at that point, he didn't have the celebrity status like he does now, but
Yeah.
he still like was. And we're like, "Cool, yeah, I mean, why not? We're down to meet him and say hi." And just like, this is a long story, but like, long story short, we had this crazy, he doesn't speak English, Kato.
Yeah.
Neither my dad or I speak Japanese. I want to learn. It's on my list. I need to. But we had this crazy connection kind of without language even. And basically he has a son that's my age, and they have that same kind of best friend relationship. Like my dad's my best friend and always has been. And we'd go on adventures together, do all sorts of stuff. And they like Kato recognized that relationship. And at the time, he only made 20 of these body kits for the Murcielago. It was like their only real limited edition kit because it was the
Right.
first one. And Kato owns like 4 of them. And then it's a bunch of like people in Japan that have the rest. But he's like, "I want to make you guys a 21st one," because he found out that we had a Murcielago. And we're just like blown away. And yeah, so we ended up doing it, and they ended up flying me out to Tokyo Auto Salon to like see
Kidding.
the shop and hang out with them.
Wow.
I was like having dinner with Kato and everyone, and it was just like so crazy. And the wild thing is, speaking of YouTube, like this was still before YouTube. I wasn't doing YouTube then. And imagine like
Yeah.
the
Now,
videos.
now, when somebody famous is cutting up your car, you got to get a video camera in there and freaking
Yeah.
3 or 4, cameras, and
But in a way, I'm like, yes, those experiences could have potentially, and I would have been doing YouTube like years earlier than I am, and I
Yeah.
could have been way further along. But there is something special about like me only having those experiences too.
Yeah.
know?
Right. I mean, that's
And now
a
I
great
kind of
story.
know everything, but it was cool not having a camera and just really enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
It was
It's so funny you mentioned that. We've had those conversations here, at my business, and certainly at the SoCal car scene. When you drop your phone down, if you're at a car show or, whatever you're doing, and you're not encumbered by that, you're able to have conversations. You're able to look at cars, appreciate cars. But if you're busy grabbing content, oh my God, you miss so much. It's incredible.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. And when it becomes like, I've always said, if I wasn't doing Haugen Racing, like I don't think I'd have any social media, because
Yeah.
I would just want to just enjoy life for what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess it's part of it. It's I don't know. I think it's good overall. But
Oh, I think it is.
like I
Yeah.
say, looking back, I think it is cool that those experiences are just for me only.
Yeah. Right on. I think that's great.
I can tell the story. So
Yeah, I think it tells a story. And, you remind me, your where your vibe, where you're going is, reminds me a little bit of the Donut Media guys right here in Irvine. I mean, God, they blew up 2 or 3 years ago, and they've just, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're
it's
doing a lot
funny.
of great. Huh?
I was in their first video, the one.
No kidding, you were not.
That's my car.
Is
Yeah.
it really? Okay, I'm gonna have to go back to that one.
Yeah, go. It's. I think for the longest time it was their most viral video, and then I think they have one that did slightly better than it. But that video went nuts. And that's like, they planned on, we're going to launch this company with a viral video. And I don't even remember how we got hooked up with them. It was with my old company. I had like a parts company. And so what sucks is the stickers on it are all street standard, and that's who's credited like in the description. And that company's long gone. Like I shut that down
crap.
2 years ago. Right?
Well, I'm going to have to go back. Everybody check it out, man. You know, I didn't know we were in the presence of celebrity here today. Look at you,
my gosh.
right? Donut Media, what a blown up brand. I got t-shirts and stuff. We had them over here one day, and I was trying to get them to. We were going to collaborate on some stuff. It didn't happen, but we still might.
They're cool. Yeah, they're nice people, and they I mean, those guys looked at doing YouTube as like a total startup. I mean, they got investment, like funding, venture capital.
I know, isn't that crazy? God,
like
dang.
It's cool. If we pitched a YouTube channel, I think they would tell us to kind of F off. Like,
yeah, exactly.
With based around startups and venture capital, all that. So,
oh my God. Yeah, I'm happy for their success.
Yeah.
Let me take a shout out for one of our other sponsor, Wicked Mobile Detailing. Hey, Wicked's a luxury mobile auto detailing, paint restoration, and paint protection service right here in Southern California. And they do great work. They've done a lot of our customers' cars. They specialize in high-end paint correction, self-healing, ceramic, and graphene coatings, and clear bra, and of course, many other services. Check out their YouTube channel, Wicked Auto Detailing, and see their professionalism, perfection, and unbeatable customer service, which is what you can expect from a Wicked customer service always. Contact them at 617-901-1417 and give your car the devilish good looks it deserves. So we talked about SEMA, Matt. It sounds like that's not going down this year, but let's talk about maybe behind the scenes. Are you building something? Is that something you can share with us? Or are you focused on your channel and all your content?
Well, absolutely. I mean, so right now we're building, can you hear that, by the way? Let's just pause for a sec. I'm in my garage, actually. So this
cool. All right. Yeah.
Garage doors opening up.
Start up some cars, man. You know, turn the camera on. We don't care.
Z actually, like right next to me.
What is?
My 350Z.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Love it. Dude.
I'll just let him pull in real quick. But so your question was on builds.
Yeah, are you building something? You know, any cars going on, you know, that you're hammering away on?
Yeah, so we're building a, I mentioned quickly earlier that we were going to be building a pre-runner truck, or that we are building a pre-runner truck. So we're taking a Toyota Tacoma and putting an RB30 in it, which is like the Nissan Skyline inline six motor from like the GTR. And so we're going for like, I don't even know, like 1,300 horsepower. It's actually right now is just getting like the titanium intercooler piping and exhaust done.
Yeah.
But that truck's just insane. And it's cool because I'm putting kind of my Japanese influence and my style, because my style is not all Japanese influence. Like I love lowrider call culture, bag trucks. I mean, bag trucks is where I started, but just kind of my culture and my style into off-roading, which is, it's just so different. Because you look at a lot of the off-road trucks, it's not taking anything away from anyone, but we were at one of the like small off-road conventions a couple months ago, and like I swear all the new builds were gray, black, and white, and I was just like, man, like you see colorful ones, but generally a lot of them it's like another gray Chevy with an LS. It's like sick, like and the build's impressive, but to have a yellow Tacoma with red wheels, blue flames, and titanium exhaust out the hood, and an inline six turbo anti-lag, like it should just be something different, and we just want to go out and have fun with it. Like,
well, I think it's important. You know, we forget during the muscle car era, during the late 60s and early 70s, what Mopar was doing with colors. You know, plum crazy purple, crazy green colors, oranges. Ford was doing it. Every car manufacturer was doing it. We still have a lot of those in our facility here at SoCal Classic, and it's amazing. They pop to this day. And now I've got builders like Chris Ashton's Ruffian Mustang. He built that in his garage, but it's a really bright, brilliant green, and you know, everybody's like, no, do blue, do black, don't do green. He did green, and it's just like, wow, that car, has a life of its own on social media. So to me, you might as well do something different, and you certainly want to catch people's eye and tell them something about you in when you deliver the build.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. We're gonna have a hydraulic handbrake in it.
Oh, awesome.
Other drift cars, so I want to drift it some. I don't really know, like it doesn't really fit any racing series.
Yeah.
It has more power by like 400 or 500 horsepower than most of the trophy trucks, but like the ones that are super high power are generally all-wheel drive. But it's still like streetable. Like I'm gonna have it street legal, so we can kind of go, rip it to car shows and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a weird, I don't know, just a fun build, I guess. And yeah, we got the build series on YouTube.
That's awesome. Hey, for those of you who haven't seen it, check it out. I'm going to get into it too, man. That sounds awesome. So this year, are you in a drifting league? Did that get shut down due to COVID? Are you going to get back into it, or where are you at it as it relates to that?
So they are doing Formula Drift this year, and they actually did it last year as well. They did it. They like piled them all up at kind of the end of the year.
Uh-huh.
I want to get back to competing so badly, but the biggest thing right now, like I said, is it's all riding on the YouTube.
Right.
There's not like a lot of money in drifting. It's not like you can go and just be competing in the sport and you suddenly have a bunch of sponsors and you can make it all whole. Like if you look at a lot of the sorry, I was gonna say YouTubers, but a lot of the drifters that are successful, they have a YouTube channel and they're doing drifting, and maybe they're even doing off-roading. They're doing all these other things, right, not just drifting. And so for me, I'm like, I really need to get the channel built up so it can kind of support all that stuff. And I didn't think it would make sense to compete this year and spend the time and money doing that.
Well, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The channel can support your passions and your madness and your desire.
Next year we are competing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
how close are you when you drift in pairs like that? I mean, you swap paint? Do people get pissed off when you bump into each other, or are you a good 3 or 4 feet away and it just looks like you guys are tied together? What's happening there for the rookies like myself?
The closer the better. I mean, if you're pretty much touching, that's going to get you more points.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, pending that you're on the same line and running the same angle and all that stuff is judged by line, angle, and style, or like the 3 criteria generally for judging drifting. But yeah, I mean, if you can put your tire right on their door and leave a couple of scrubs, I mean, you're going to get some points for that. So
nobody gets pissed off when they got to bang out a few dents and go repaint their quarter panel. I
mean, I think maybe in like grassroots stuff and like ProAm, but in professional drifting, like that's just part of the game. Like,
okay.
I don't know if somebody intentionally, which has happened, like it's rare, but if someone's like a poor sport and they intentionally like hit you, then that's a different thing.
Okay.
But generally scrubs and scratches, it's kind of part of it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So don't go out there with a $50,000 paint job and expect it to be cherry when you get back off the car.
Yeah. Not happening. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like my pro car is paint and vinyl. I mean, all together, I got like sponsorship help with it and stuff, but if you were to just try to replicate it,
no way.
You'd probably be in almost like 15, 20 grand on the
wow.
Yeah. So
well, that's amazing.
It's outrageous.
So I want to talk a little bit about your inspirations. One of the things you mentioned is the Japanese lifestyle and culture as it relates to JDM. And you also mentioned lowriders. And, I was around lowriders up in NorCal where I grew up in San Jose and stuff. So, I grew up kind of in and around both the classic hot rods and then the lowriders. So I can totally relate to that. But tell us a little bit about the Japanese inspiration and how that affects your line of clothes and all that. I'm really curious about all that.
So drifting started in Japan, or at least that's the general narrative. There's some people that say, actually, there's this guy in the UK doing it first. That may be true, but it really started like in the mountains of drifting, and that's where it gained its popularity. You had all the manufacturers out there making performance parts for these cars to slide around the corners in the Togue, out in Japan. And so that like led to D1 GP, which was like the first, I think it was the first professional drifting series, at least the biggest for the longest time out there. And so it's like, that's kind of like home base for drifting, right?
Okay.
And now though, drifting has gotten so big and there's so many people getting into it. And that past is like, I think like prime time drifting in Japan was like early 2000s. So it's getting to be a little bit of time. The sport overall is only like 30, 40 years old, but that is like, it's kind of like Scotland with golfing, but I feel like that was so long ago, but to some people, it's still special to them that's where it started.
Yeah.
And for me, I like my first exposure to it was Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious. I mean, I was like one of those kids, I wasn't watching D1 GP. I mean, people would like import the D1 GP VHS tapes and DVDs from Japan, and they're watching them in the early 2000s. Like, I didn't even know about it. I was just Tokyo Drift when that came out.
Is that Tokyo Drift movie accurate? As far as just the passion for it, and just how important it is in the culture of those young people in their lives.
I would say yes and no. We actually we kind of broke down the movie, like some of the stunts in it and stuff, in one of our React videos. But I would say like overall, yes, it's dramatized though, right? Because
Hollywood, of course, got to make it interesting.
But, I mean, yeah, in a lot of ways, I think it is. And some people would disagree with me on that, but it's like they show drifting in the Toge, like in the mountains, all these people going out there, like young kids with these cool Japanese cars. They show like the car meets in the parking garages. That still happens in Japan and is now, people do that in the US. So I think overall, like, and a lot of the cars featured in that were either like D1 cars or like Tokyo Auto Salon builds, or cars, built specifically for the movie that were kind of in that style. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So had a lot of influence on you. So you take this influence and, kind of out of an appreciation or just something you feel is grassroots, and then somehow it winds up influencing your merchandise. Tell us a little bit about how it's impacted your merchandise.
Yeah. So there's like a certain kind of style with the Japanese style. I mean, they'll take things from like old Japanese art, or whether it's like the Great Wave or like Oni masks, things like that. And a lot of that stuff is and was prevalent in kind of the liveries of drift cars over there, and kind of stickers people would make and things like that. And just like the textile, stuff like that. And so we kind of geared the merch to have some of that influenced in it. One of the coolest things that I'm like super proud of is our colors, yellow, red, and blue. It's the primary colors, which I feel like more often than not, like older people and like adults recognize it, but like kids, like never. I don't know if they're not learning about the primary colors these days, but like we've done like trivia sometimes at like Formula Drift, and it was always someone like 30, 40 years old, or even like we had like an old guy that was like, oh, primary colors, So I don't know if they're not teaching that anymore, but
maybe those colors got canceled. Who knows?
God, maybe. Yeah.
Who knows?
Primary colors are canceled.
Can't talk about them.
Yeah.
That's enough. But yeah, I think they're making a comeback. I'm seeing them in Porsches and Ferraris and some cars from different manufacturers now. They're starting to make their way back into the fold, but not to the extent that they ever were. But I think we've kind of muted out all the cars. When I look around here in Southern California, I know what it's like for you, but it's all grays, blacks, and whites. That's it. That's all I see on the road. And once in a while, there's a red car, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a red car. What?
So you think like, and that what I was kind of going with the primary colors is like, that's our team colors. It's yellow, red, and blue. And when I first built my 350Z, I was building it for the SEMA show, and I was like, I want to do a unique color combo. How the hell do you do a unique color combo, especially with the internet these days? And we can see everything that's been done. And I'm like, really, truly, how do you get something that like hasn't been done? That's got to be impossible. I mean, there's a limited amount of colors. And so I just started playing with colors. I had like a blue body with pink wheels. I was like, that's been done. It looks cool. But like, then I'm doing like purple with like purple anodized wheels. I'm going through all these things, and I'm like yellow with red wheels. And I was like, I haven't seen that before. And then I was like, but wait, like what else could there be? And I was like, yellow, red. And I was like, oh, blue accents. And so I was like, yellow, red, and blue primary colors. And it just like struck. And when I kind of told the sponsors that what I was doing, they're just like, oh man, I don't know. Like that just sounds ridiculous. And I was like, I'm doing it. I don't really care. Like, I promise it will do well. You guys will like it. And everybody did and has. And that's really became kind of our team colors. Like
your signature palette, if you will.
Like,
you know, we've got an Acura. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like yellow, red, blue. I mean, the floor in here.
Oh, wow. I see it's all
yellow,
over.
red, blue.
Beginning to see the theme here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, so we've got a race Acura out in one of my parking lots. Some guy covers his car here and stores it with me. And I'm like, it's like an Integra or something. But anyway, it's yellow with blue wheels and it's full race. Now I have no idea what year it is, but once in a while the cover will come off and be, hey man, is that one of those race Acura Integra, whatever? And I'm like, I got no idea. But these young kids know exactly what the hell it is. So yeah, yellow and blue. Shout out to those two colors, and red, man, that's huge. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. So
maybe yellow, red, and blue has been done, but I would like to be the kind of the person to put it on the map, and I never saw it. And
good for you. Yeah.
By the way, I love it.
There's no shame, as they say.
Hey,
so speaking of no shame, man, I saw you put your mom in your drift car. Yeah. And by the way, that was epic, and she was a good sport. And I almost felt like, how the hell did she figure that out so quick? I'm like, you know, either it runs in the family or she's just a really car-oriented person. But it was a cool episode. Tell me about that whole deal with your mom.
So I would never call her like a car person, but like my dad always is like quick to remind me that he's like, you know, she had an old, like a stick Fox body convertible, like when they were pretty young, and like she'd drive that around, and he's like, she would do like a burnout every once in a while. And so like, she would never call herself a car person, but I didn't consider her a little bit, you know? And so she knows how to drive stick. And that was truly the first time she drove the car. There was no like,
no kidding.
I mean, that was the first time she'd sat in it. Everything was like first impression, truly. And yeah, even I was surprised once she kind of got a feel for the clutch and stuff. She was kind of like ripping around, and she didn't drift it, but still, just to be able to drive that car, the stick was cool. Yeah.
It was impressive. But you know, the thing that was really cool is when you were doing your thing, you know, just pushing it like you do, the look on her face is like, oh my God. So this is what it is. This is really quite scary. I think a couple of times she even looked over at you like, really? You're gonna
when I first, so like before drifting, I went to like a driving school for like racing and did like some kind of fun track days. And she actually came out to one of them and rode along in one of the cars. And she was like so terrified, just racing around the track by ourselves, you know, like the cars were all split up. It was super early on. She was like totally white knuckled. And when she got out, my dad too, and he was like, hey, like, don't ever let her, you know, come drifting. And so to this day, she still hasn't been drifting. He's like, I think she'll try to do everything she can to make you quit. I mean, at this point, it's kind of too far gone, but
it's too late.
Everyone was commenting that like, you should teach her to drift. That would be such a cool video. And I do want to do that. She's like terrified of it. So,
well, I think, yeah. I mean, we'll get her a couple courage or two and get her going. It'll be to all our benefit, but it could be her worst nightmare. But I think it'd be great content.
I think she'd like it. And even if we're just doing like donuts and burnouts, you know, it's like, it's not that scary. It's fun.
Hey, so, you know, that was one of your drift cars. Is it orange?
It's a red Nissan Skyline.
Skyline, yeah. So that's a really valuable car. I mean, that you're drifting there. Those Skylines are pretty collectible, right?
They're getting there. I mean, I use like the GT or the GTT models or one of those. Yeah. But they're still, it's unbelievable. They're starting to pull a lot of money. I wish I had more money and could buy some like spare chassis, but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thing. I like, it's fun to be out in a car that are like, that car should not be drifting. Like that's such an iconic car. And it's just such a love-hate with it, because some people are just like, oh, I hate it. And then other people are like, this is unbelievable. Like, this is so sick. He's like, pitching this thing sideways, and this should be in like a museum. Like, I think it's fun. So
Well, I'm with you. We should be using all these cars. I've got over 100 cars that we manage, and many of them rarely or never get used, or I use them more than they use them, because we've got to start them up, move them around, and things. And so it's not good for cars to sit. And what better way than to drift them? I say. So you got 3 drift cars then? You got a professional grade one. You got kind of a medium grade, and then you got a demo. Or you tell us the difference between the 3 or 4 that you have.
So the kind of the terms, at least that I'm familiar with, are you have like your competition or your pro car, and then you have like a demo car, which is like, sometimes it's similar to the pro car, maybe like less power, and you use that to, kind of save miles off the pro car at like fun events and giving ride-alongs and things like that. And then you usually have like a practice car, and then even sometimes lower than that, like a missile car, and we call them drift missiles. And it's a car. That also started in Japan. These cars out at like some of these tracks where they're just so destroyed, like so mangled, but still just like ripping and being pitched sideways. And so you kind of need to have a car. Some people call them bash cars, but you kind of have a car where you're not worried about the paint or the body kit at all. And you're just really there to like get as close as possible and just really practice drifting. So it's like your practice car. So we have the practice car, which is a Nissan S13, and like a 240 SX coupe.
I remember this,
What's up?
Oh, I remember the 240s. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then, awesome. The R32, which is kind of like demo / practice car right now. And then the pro car is a Nissan Skyline R34. And so, that one is the one that people are like, oh, that should not be like drifting. It's like so iconic, and they are like getting really expensive. So I'm like, I need to take a little bit of care of it, but it's built for it. Yeah.
We had one in here about 6 months ago, right-hand drive, and everybody walked by and goes, hey, how did that thing get in the country? But there was an export label on it. So there's one company apparently that can export them in, and it's quite a buzz hassle. So you don't see them that much. We do have a couple of Toyota Super twin turbos in here. One's white, one's black. They're pretty OG. One's got the T-top on it, and I'm like, everybody would be walking through the shop, and then the younger guys would go, oh my God, like they stop, and they're like, you can see them drooling.
They're like, like it's so fun. Like, I think that's why those cars are going up in value, because like the people that watch the Fast and Furiouses and stuff, they're starting to get a little bit older and starting to get their own money.
Yeah.
And money. It's just like, to us, what maybe, I don't know, a Roadrunner or a Barracuda or whatever you name it, Cobra is to like other car guys. So.
They're not interested in that stuff. They're like, that was my dad's car, man. What are you talking about? I got a Grand Sport National here, right on. So
I love it all personally, but I get it. I'm like, I get why the JDM cars are getting there. And
one car that kind of doesn't really belong in any age group around here. We got a 240Z 1970 in storage, and it's a green with a really nice saddle interior, and it's an early model, and everybody's got a story about that car. Everybody loves that car, and it almost doesn't matter how old they are.
It's interesting. I see that too. Like I do feel like that's a car that kind of crosses boundaries, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
But just like all age groups, they all like it. I like them.
Yeah, I love that little car. So we got a 260, we got a 280 and 240. So it's fun to see those cars, but they're going through the roof like everything else these days, right? Yeah. So hey, I think that's about it. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but how do folks reach out to you and Haugen Racing to learn more about you and or all these awesome videos and all the cool content, and maybe get some merch so they can be showing you off to their friends and family and at the car show?
So the biggest thing you guys can do is just go check out the YouTube channel, and show if you have, if you're young yourself, you might like it. If you're older, you'll probably like it too, and show like your kid or your brother, whatever. That's the biggest thing that would help us, is subscribing to the YouTube channel, watching our videos. And I mean, if you want to go further and support and check out our merchandise, that's all on haugenracing.com. That stuff is definitely geared more towards younger crowd. It's kind of like street style inspired. So it's a little, I don't know, you can see like the back of this one, but this one's actually kind of like monster truck style.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. But
Extreme.
all sorts of different stuff. But yeah, YouTube, #1. That would appreciate it a lot if you check that out.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, you've been a great guest, and that was a real tire shredding ride. I kind of made that up. That's really bad, but I don't know if you're shredding tires or just burning the shit out of the tires. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but in the end, there's not much left when you're done, right? But anyway, I want to say thank you. You've been a great guest. It's been a fantastic ride.
Thanks for having me. Yes. And I'm hoping, because this is like it's a work in progress. And so, maybe someday if we made it, we'll come back on and we can kind of share, what happened in between.
Yeah, I think, you're going to blow up. Sounds like you're well on your way. And pretty soon you're going to be, hanging out with Ken Block, probably,
cool.
on TV. And you'll be like having Gene Con at 20 or whatever number he's on.
Yeah.
I cannot get enough of his stuff. I'll never forget that Mustang video he did. That 65 black Mustang. And I'm like, that thing caught the internet by storm. And I don't know, it's one of those iconic videos that will never leave my brain. And every time I watch his stuff, I'm like, oh, dude, that guy, I bow to him. And I know you're going to be there, so we're excited for your future.
Man, I appreciate that. It's the dream, right?
Yep, that's it. And I want to shout out and thank those of you that are watching us today. Don't forget, all of our episodes are on our YouTube channel, the SoCal Car Scene. Just like Matt said, it's so important to subscribe. Don't want to miss an episode. That really helps us out. SoCal Car Scene is all separate words. You can see awesome guests like Matt and me, try to keep it together and sound articulate. That never happens. Don't worry about that. But please watch, follow, most importantly, subscribe. And if you prefer to listen to the show, we're also out there on all your favorite podcast platforms like Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, Google Play, and the SoCal Car Storage /SoCal Car Scene page. Hey, thanks a lot for listening and watching. And that's a wrap.